Hello everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to our session. That it's the Innovation in Public Services session, focusing on GovTech and AI activities and also emerging technologies that they help through innovation to the digital transformation of public administrations. Actually, we will have a panel discussion, but before that, we will have short presentations for the Public Sector Tech Watch, a repository, initiative that we run at the European Commission that aims at innovating public administrations. And then we will dive into interesting discussion with a panel that actually I will present now. But before that, I have also to introduce my colleague Paula, that she will take care of presenting some results out of a study that we will publish soon. And this soon means after summer. And I want also to welcome our panelists. Lucia Velasco from the UN, the Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Technology at the United Nations, where she's working on AI policy. She's also authored, Are You Going to Be Replaced by an Algorithm? I had a very brief chat with her before, and it's quite interesting. I invite you to have a look, even though it's in Spanish. Then we have Ivy Young, so that she's working on AI and digital policies. And she's working on at the open and agile smart cities. Her main research areas are EU's AI positioning and its global digital competitiveness. I would also like to welcome Jet Klaver, a program manager and innovation supervisor at DigiCampus in the Netherlands, and also involved in a project that we run. It's in a grant that we run, the GovTech Incubator, which aims to bring innovation through experimentation to public administrations. Then I will jump to the gentlemen, and I would like to welcome Ibon Arechalde, CEO at Asimob, a company, a telecom service provider that focuses on services for the digitalization of road infrastructures with the use of AI, among other technologies. Welcome also Andrea Lapa from AMA, the Agency for Modernization of Public Administrations in Portugal. He is the head of digital service and delivery and content at the agency. And then, last but not least, my colleague Florian Hauser from DigiReform, deputy head of unit of the public administration and governance at DigiReform, leading expert on public administration reform. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Stefanos Kotoglou from DigiDigit, working on GovTech, on AI technologies and emerging technologies, helping public administrations for their digital transformation to provide better public services and also improve their administrative processes. And here is my colleague Paula Rodriguez Müller. She's working for JRC, and also she's an alumni of KU Leuven, working on projects in JRC in support with the Commission, collaboration with the Commission, and focusing on bringing innovation in the digitalization of public administrations. This is our agenda. As I mentioned, we will have a brief presentation of our initiative, the Public Sector Tech Watch. Then we will jump into the innovation in public services by analysis of data that we have, and we will publish through a report, as I mentioned, after summer. And we will jump into the panel discussion that will focus on bringing innovation in public administration, what are the challenges, the opportunities, how they can take advantage of these opportunities, and also what are the status of these solutions and how you can move from piloting to full implementation of such solutions in the public administration. Of course, we have our Slido, so I invite you to scan and have access by providing your questions. We will have a look. We will try to gather as much as possible and to address some of them, because already our agenda is quite full, but we will do our best. So I'll give you like, I don't know, 20 seconds just to have a scan, but we will repeat also the slide later on. And I'll take it like, okay. Okay, so the Public Sector Tech Watch. You can discover again, it's another QR code that you can access the website, our initiative. And I will go to the next. Sorry if someone didn't manage to go there. So The Public Sector Tech Watch is part of an ecosystem that we are working on to create actually an ecosystem, a GovTech ecosystem. As you can see, it's the upper part, the left. It is one of the ingredients. So what is the Public Sector Tech Watch? Public Sector Tech Watch is an observatory where we provide an overview of innovative solutions developed by SMEs and startups for public administrations. And it's a community actually that we bring together experiences which are opportunities. Also we promote such initiatives, and we create capacity building through webinars and workshops that we organize throughout the year. And as I mentioned, through publishing studies. Already we did the mid-study publication last year. It was February, if not mistaken. And then we will follow up with a presentation, a study after summer. Another ingredient, another segment of our ecosystem is the GovTech Connect, which is a community bringing again together actors of GovTech, but focusing mainly on the part of the private sector with SMEs and startups that actually we create. It was mentioned actually in the morning at one speeches, we should increase the visibility of companies, GovTech companies in Europe, so public administrations, they are aware of them and they get in contact with them, collaborate for innovation. So this is what GovTech Connect does. It's the private part. It's the part of the private sector. And last but not least, we have the GovTech Incubator, as I mentioned, yet is one member of our consortium. What we do there is through funding, which is 50% financing by the Commission and 50% by the digital agencies and the member states. We promote, we try to experiment new innovative solutions by running pilots. So far we ran 3 pilots, and we are planning to have 7 pilots in the future to experiment new technologies to be developed and applied in public administrations. Now we'll just dive a bit into the Public Sector Tech Watch. As I mentioned, it's an observatory that you can join the community there, get updates, be informed of what we do, have access to all the documents and all the material we produce, and report your cases. You can do it yourselves. We also do the data collection, but I invite you by scanning, I hope you can also scan this, submit your case. If you're a public administration, if you're a private company, reach out to your public administration so they do it for you. And last but not least, but I will refer to this at the end of our presentation, we have a Best Cases Award that by submitting your case, you also automatically participate in this. Be careful, the deadline is the 12th of July, but still you are more than welcome, and it's an open call for you to submit your cases. And I think this is my part, and I will invite my colleague Paula. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, Stefanos. Now that we have introduced the Public Sector Tech Watch, we can move to some insights of the current ongoing analysis of what's coming in the report that's going to be published soon. So today we're going to share some preliminary data that we have, but we also invite you, as Stefanos was mentioning before, to join the collection, and then you can be updated into the upcoming reports that are coming, also events or any other information related to the Public Sector Tech Watch. So as you can see here, in the first one is a report that has been published in the last month. And in the report, we are presenting the initiative, the Public Sector Tech Watch, the main features, some preliminary data on the case collection with a focus on AI and blockchain. And the goal of the report was twofold. So on one hand was to explain the importance of this initiative, the need to really join forces at the EU level, sharing experiences, sharing practices. And on the other hand is to provide some data on the landscape, as I mentioned before, on AI and blockchain. But still, there is going to be a new report coming soon, maybe after summer, that we're working right now. And the aim is to enter into more details on the current landscape of AI and blockchain adoption. But it's going to be by analyzing a larger data set of use cases. And also the aim is to dive more into more specific topics related to current trends that are around. For instance, in this new report that's coming, generative AI, and other emerging tech, we will be including this upcoming report, and that's what today we want to share some insights with you. But before I get into the specifics of what we have today to show you about the data that we're analyzing so far, I think it's important to keep in mind that the data set cannot be considered statistically representative because of the methodology that it uses. So at the end, this is based on data collection that is from public available information related to use cases of technologies adoption at the EU. So I think it's important that you keep that in mind when you reflect a bit on the results that you are seeing here, and also that you are aware that there is a report coming soon on the details of the methodology that is used in this observatory. So as you can see on the left side, there is a graph showing how the Public Sector Watch has evolved from February 2024, which is the cutoff date of the report that has been already published. And now you can see that we have more than 1,600 cases in the observatory, including, for instance, artificial intelligence cases, blockchain, quantum computing, virtual worlds, AR, virtual reality, and so on. And mostly in this one, related to VR, AR, and virtual worlds like metaverse, these are actually new in the observatory, and those are going to be analyzed more in depth in the upcoming report. Then on the right, you're going to see this pie chart that is showing you the composition of the data set by technology. And as of now, as you can see here, more than 80% of the cases in the database are AI-based, while the remaining cases are most blockchain and a few new emerging technologies that I was mentioning before. And I think this could be addressed mostly to how AI is now becoming, let's say, a most appealing technology for public administrations with multiple applications. You can see from a chatbot that responds to citizens' inquiries, also to algorithms that automate decisions for civil servants. And I think we can also address it a bit to the hype that is around AI actually now at the EU level. But to say that, I think other insights that you can see related to the Public Sector Tech Watch, as you can see on your left, is the distribution of cases across different levels of the administration. And as you can see here, half of the cases are implemented or piloted at the national level. Then around 30% is on the local level, and we have 10% each for regional and across countries. And with across countries, here we mean mostly use cases that are related to Horizon or EU-funded projects on this technology, for instance, blockchain initiatives or other AI projects that are being conducted at this moment. And on this one, I think it's interesting for you to keep in mind this stat, because we're going to discuss further with our panelists here how the different levels of administrations are extremely important for the innovation of public services and how those can be used to address actually both citizens and administrations' needs. Then other insights that we have for you today is, as you can see on the right, is the distribution of cases across different functions of government. And we can see here that most of the cases are either pilot or implemented within general public services. So here we're talking about almost 30% of the cases. Other interesting functions are economic affairs, public order and safety, and also a 10% more or less focus on health areas. Another maybe insights, interesting insights that we can share with you today that are not included but are going to be in the upcoming report is the use of AI. For instance, we see that AI is more used on blockchain at the local level, and that 70% of the cases that we have in our data set that are related to AR or VR are included at the local level. That's also very interesting to keep in mind. And in terms of the functions of governments, we have AR, which is mostly used for culture and recreation, for instance, museum visits, while AI and blockchain, as is shown here, is mostly used for general public services and economic affairs. But as I say, this is like a snapshot of the overview of cases that are actually included in the observatory. Then, to conclude on the insights that we would like to share with you today, we have some results focused on AI. So on the left, you can see the distribution of AI cases according to their domain or subdomains. And with domain here, we mean the specific techniques that are used in this solution. So here you have to see that they're not mutually exclusive, because what we want to understand is to see what are these features, those techniques that are at least mentioned in the specific cases that we have in the observatory. And as you can see here, around 50% of the cases feature machine learning. Then around a bit more than 20% include computer vision or NLP, and also other functions include automating reasoning. And I think this one is interesting because in the upcoming report, you will see that we have updated the previous classification of previous reports to include specific subdomains, like you see here, like generative AI or deep learning, for instance, as separate categories. So today we have gathered around 20 cases on generative AI. So as you can see here is more or less 2% of the AI cases that we have in the public sector TechWatch. So we see that it's actually increasing quite fast. And then on the right, you can see the location of these cases. As I say, it's not representative, but it's for you to have an idea of the distribution of the cases and also the organizations that are responsible of these pilots or implemented initiatives so far. So this is more or less to show you a snapshot of our database. But I think it's very important to highlight that the full analysis and deep understanding of maybe patterns, as well as the policy recommendations that we have at local, regional, or national level are going to be included in the upcoming report. So again, I really invite you to join the collection, and you will get the updates on the reports, on the events, as I mentioned before. I think it's going to be quite interesting to see the results in there. But maybe before jumping into the panel, I think, again, as Stefanos mentioned before, let me remind you that you can still join Slido to ask some questions of what we have briefly presented so far, or maybe questions specific to our panelists. And now I invite my colleague to introduce the very interesting panel that we have with us today. Thank you.
Okay, yes. So maybe I can, sorry. So before introducing the panel, we introduced actually the panel, just before going back to the panel discussion, for the online users, I forgot to mention, of course, they are welcome to be involved, so please scan and join through Slido if you have any questions. Okay, if I, this, merci. It doesn't work. It works. Okay. So this is our panel. I introduced before our speakers, and I will just mention that the point of the discussion is to engage in questions and answers on the innovation in public administrations with the use of AI and other technologies, and of course to check the challenges and how you can scale up from a piloting phase to full implementation of a pilot of a use case. I will just put some fuel in the discussion by having a conclusion out of this slide that shows that the majority of government-to-government solutions are implemented at national level, but the cases and the services government-to-citizen solutions are implemented more at local level. So it is quite important to put emphasis on different levels of administration and not to live outside the local administration. That, of course, it's administrations that they might not have the right, let's say, information to get easier funding as the national administrations do. So based on this slide, actually, I would like to turn first to Yvonne and André, and first of all ask you if you expected such results, and what are actually the actual roles and the challenges and the opportunities that public administrations they have to face, and how they can work together with the private sector to achieve innovation in public administration. First, I will give the floor to Yvonne, and then we'll try to go to André.
Okay, thank you, Stefanos. Well, really, first, I will explain in 30 seconds what we do, because we are a company that is focused in GovTech, but we born like a startup in 2016. So really, we provide services to monitor the assets of the infrastructure automatically using computer vision and sensors on board of vehicles that are already running the roads and the streets. So with this service, we provide services for national entities like ministries of transport, regional entities like the typical provinces or regional administrations that are in charge of the interurban roads and secondary roads, and also to municipalities. Well, the first challenge is that in Europe we have more than 100,000 potential clients. All the municipalities can apply these technologies just in the same way that the Ministry of Transport, and with a cost that really is adapted to the network that they have to control, that is quite small in small municipalities. No? But the first challenge is how to reach or how to reach this market, no? Because when we are working with the regional administrations or national administrations, they have departments for innovation that probably detect this kind of innovative solutions, and they have the possibility to link also with the technical operative departments that have to maintain the infrastructures. But sometimes, well, this link is not always very easy, but they have these possibilities to taste the things and to test in pilots, in projects, and so on. But when you go to the municipalities, medium-sized or small-sized municipalities, they have not this means to do. Sometimes they have not even the possibility to know that this kind of solution exists. So for me, the first challenge is how to reach this market in my position of a company, but really for all the Europeans, is how to spread the knowledge and the praise that we can put on the table in national entities and regional entities, how to go to the municipalities and how to reach that. And well, this is my first thought, no? Because really I think that is a challenge, and another thing that is close to that is that sometimes we are very focused, not only in these conferences, in our work of engineers and data scientists, in create the standards for the digital world, but sometimes we are working with data taken from the analog world, for the world where we live, and in this world they are not standards, or the standards are not correctly applied. I will put only an example in 30 seconds, that is traffic signs. You have a convention from 1948 that all the traffic signs in the world have to be the same. Then there was a problem with the American part, and now we have two standards, but well, two standards in the world. If you go to Murcia, this is a region in Spain, you can find the danger of cats. If you go to Canary Islands, you can find the sign of danger of camels. And if you go to Castilla-La Mancha, that is another region in Spain, you can find the sign of danger of lynx. But if you go to Germany, I suppose that they are danger of other animals. Really, we have two standard signs, one that is for domestic animals and another one that is for wild animals. But then we are very creative. We like to create things, and we create signs out of the standards. So if we go out of the standards in the analog world, then how we will get to have standards in the digital world, no? So, well, it's only a reflection.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much, Ibon. Indeed, semantics on by creating standards. Okay, not only on the science, but in general, it's very important indeed. And yeah, it's what actually we do in the Commission is also to try to create this market pool. And yeah, I hope we will not disappoint you in the near future. But I will just want to jump to Andre now and address to you the same question.
Sure. Thank you very much. So just also for context, my agency, EMA, is the agency responsible for digital transformation and modernization in Portugal. So I'm more knowledgeable about the central level of this kind of challenges. But I think if we have to find a common thread in thinking about how the central administration, the local administration approach innovation, I think we have to talk about scalability, right? So in order to ensure, so there are a lot of pilots going, a lot of initiatives. We have also recently we have 3 different projects with generative AI with very interesting results. But then when these pilots finish when they end up, we always have the same conversation about scalability. And in that sense, I think we get one of the main roles of agencies such as mine, which is to ensure that there are common frameworks or building blocks so that to ensure that when this innovation happens, we can scale that innovation. For example, our interoperable platform. We are also developing and perfecting a central catalog for information regarding all the public services, right? So when we have this catalog in its next version, it will have all the semantic information and all the data information regarding the public services. We are very excited to what this will open up in terms of innovation with public services. So getting back to the specific case, so last year we had a pilot with Gen AI and an avatar and the chatbot that gives information about one particular public service. We were very happy with the pilot. It's still in production in our portal. It had better results than our current chatbot solution, which uses NLP, which is more traditional ones, which is also functioning since 2019. But now the challenge, and we are working on that challenge, is how are we going to scale this generative AI avatar to the other 3,000 services that we have on our catalog, right? So I think one of our roles is to ensure that this innovation projects, these pilots, these POCs continue to happen. We are also working, of course, with different partners. There are also other areas of the public administration, such as the Justice Ministry or Social Security, or the tax authority. They are also doing their projects, and we are exchanging information with them. But I think in the end, and this is also something very relevant for my area, which is public service delivery, we are working towards an omni-channel paradigm of service delivery, right? So we want all the services to be available in all the different channels, like online, telephone, or at the counter, at the public office, and people able to seamlessly interact with the services between all these different channels. But that, of course, will require a great work on those common frameworks, but also, of course, great work and special effort in the way that we also work. So I would say that this is also one of our roles as the central body, is to make available this information. So we have several initiatives. Some of them are websites, others are workshops that we do throughout the year with different partners regarding, for example, sharing of information, best practices for product management or project management. Also, this is not entirely related to innovation, but I think it's also something that we need to do more and better regarding the accessibility and usability of our products. So I think our role at the central level is to make available these tools and also to promote these pilots and the experiments, but also to keep an eye on the end goal and the question of scalability.
Thank you very much, Andre. What actually I keep the most interesting, your proposals and your outcome is very interesting. But what triggered me more, it was the generative AI avatar. And what is actually the status on this? It's like it's a pilot. What is the timeline?
Yes. So in May last year, we deployed a pilot in about 1 month. It was very interesting. It was kind of the idea came up, in a conversation between our board, Microsoft, and 2 other startups. They all volunteered to help and to make this with little as cost possible, just to see what we could make. So in about 1 month, we deployed this. So it uses ChatGPT as a basis, and also it runs on cloud services. And then it has both the option to use chat or to interact with the avatar using text to voice or voice to text. We focused this first pilot on one particular service, which is the activation of the digital mobile key, which is our authentication service using a smartphone. It was very interesting. Everything happened very, very fast. I think the biggest challenge was the hallucination challenge. So we had like, at the beginning, we have about 50% or 40% of right answers from the start. And in 2 or 3 weeks, we were able to minimize that to 90%, how do you say, 90% assurance that it was giving the right answers in the time of deployment. Right now, it's about 97%, I think. So right now, we are concluding the second phase of that project, which is we are broadening the scope of the knowledge base also to include information about migrants that come to Portugal to work. So we have been testing the chatbot and the avatar operating in 16 different languages. Everything went well except with Urdu, which is, we're not sure why, but with the Urdu language, the translation doesn't work that well. So we did text with interpreters and people that know those languages, of course. I hope that can be deployed soon, in 1 or 2 months. And we have the other goal is towards the end of the year, we have at least one more 500 services on this avatar. So we are phasing our, let's call it, old chatbot to this new one, and we're doing this by phasing out and passing services, not all at the same time. Well, I hope that by the end of the year, we have the avatar giving out information about 500 services, and also being able to perform about 10 transactions. For example, telling you where you vote, changing your address on the citizen card, which is something that our current chatbot already does. So we want to also expand those capabilities.
Okay, many thanks. Very interesting. I would now like to address a question to Lucia Velasco and Florian Hauser, but first we'll go with Lucia. It's the same question for both. What is the role of the UN, actually, in shaping innovation directions and supporting administrations to face their challenges and to take up on opportunities?
Thank you, Stefanos. Thank you for the invitation. And congratulations for having such a gender-balanced panel, and also covering all the different levels. It's really difficult. Congratulations. So I know that, the UN here may look a bit far away, and that is, for obvious reasons, you're more on implementation, probably. But before joining the UN, I worked for the Spanish government for almost 15 years, and I was very much hands-on all these topics. So I will now zoom out and talk from that global perspective, but I very much know what you go through in your daily job, sort of. In general, I would say that the UN here it's all about collaboration, fostering collaboration. The mandate of the United Nations, as you probably all know, is to develop relations among countries and achieve international cooperation. The idea behind international cooperation is harmonizing the actions of the countries, or at least facilitating or supporting the interoperability of these actions. And this mandate applies to almost any area, from peace to climate. However, with innovation and with technology, there is an urgent need for this cooperation, particularly because with emerging technologies, and more specifically with AI, we are already seeing tremendous disruption, and it's not yet full speed. We will see productivity gains, economic growth, especially to those who master it, and I would say every level of the administration will go through this journey/nightmare. Especially if you're working in procurement, you will probably relate more to the nightmare concept of procuring AI solutions. And now with the AI Act and how all this comes together in the European context, it's interesting. And that is why it's also so important to cooperate and to align or facilitate interoperability, or at least learn from others who have gone through this exercise in the past. As I was saying, we've seen that this technology brings a lot of opportunities, and it seems that you cannot talk about this technology if you don't mention the opportunities. Yes, it has a lot of opportunities, but also risks, and risks especially for those most vulnerable and those countries who are not leading or at the forefront of technological development, but broadly to society. And obviously, some countries are leading the charge in facing these challenges from the administration perspective, because there is no comprehensive safety system, there is no risk assessment protocol or proven governance mechanism in place. I know that the EU now has done this humongous effort with the AI Act and is starting to be deployed, but the solutions and the standards and everything is being deployed at the same time that the institutions are built. So I think that the world is going to learn a lot from the EU, but even within the EU, there's different levels of implementation, different levels of different approaches to the understanding of how these technologies should be deployed. And deploying AI in public services is really important and something to think twice. Because when you're talking about making decisions over people's lives is very different from using AI in opt-out products and services like video, or music, or streaming platforms. And these AI systems really need thorough testing and security measures. And as you were just talking about the hallucinations, right? Only in generative AI, but there are other types of AI already being deployed. So they need auditing, they need continuous oversight before being implemented for public use. And this is where multi-level cooperation becomes crucial. Every administration worldwide is going to go through similar challenges. And this is not only because the providers are a handful of companies, but also because the use cases are common, and more or less the role of the public sector is relatively similar in every country at national, regional, or local level. So collaborative efforts and shared learning are really essential to address these challenges effectively and make sure that safe and equitable deployment of AI in public services happens. And I will finish with this. So to answer your question, what the UN, how is the UN looking at this? Well, significantly contributing to a global governance of AI by offering a platform to 193 countries to collaborate, sharing knowledge, promoting collaboration, building consensus on ethical and societal implications, and also setting some international socio-technical standards that will distribute the benefits that AI promises. And I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Florian, the floor is yours.
Thanks, and Lucia opened the door very nicely, and I fully agree with you. And for example, we had a case we work with the Netherlands, and some of you might have heard they had a bit of a scandal when they used AI in their social services, and now they came to us, and we work with the Netherlands to develop an AI governance system. I'm already revealing what we do. So I work for the European Commission as the Directorate General for Reform Support. And if you're a bit familiar with the Commission, we are maybe a little bit the odd child there, because we're really a service provider. So we are not the Commission that wags the finger at member states, or that the Commission that monitors you or tells you off or something, or develops legislation. But we have an instrument. It's called the Technical Support Instrument, TSI. It has a budget of 840 million euro, and it's a totally demand-driven instrument, and EU member states can send us their request for support, and then every year we have a call, and then we select the best project. So far we have supported 1,200 reforms. It can be in any sector, literally, but we see a very clear trend that digital and digital innovation is just huge. And Lucia, when you mentioned it's a lot of AI talk, I'm very low tech, by the way, but I think it's a good balance as well, because I think a lot of the problems, when Yvonne said I have 100,000 potential customers, maybe you should have 500. You know, maybe they should work together. And I think it's the same message from you. But we had, so I say it's demand-driven, but obviously we are commissions always cheat a bit, and we have sort of a nudging, and it was something we call flagships. So we set out certain themes where we say, that's kind of an EU priority, and I think you all have that same problem. What Lucia said, you have similar problems. We think you have a problem here and there. We'll help you with that, preferably. If you have a project in that area, you have a better chance of winning. We're about 3 or 4 times oversubscribed. We cannot support all projects, so we have a bit of leverage what we choose. Now, last year, we had a flagship that was called AI-Ready Public Administration. We thought it was really cool and trendy and modern. And then from the projects we got, we saw, they're not really ready for this. And this year, we in a way, took a step back and downscaled the flagship. We always have a digital flagship, of course, and we call it a digital ready what do you call it? The digital decade, Europe digital decade, ready for the digital decade. So it's a bit of a wider concept. But what we found is if you don't collaborate, if you don't have good governance, if you don't have the right data, and especially if you don't have your interoperability fundamentals ready, then you will also struggle with AI. So you cannot just invent it out of the blue. If you say, well, where's your data coming from? You work with ChatGPT. No, you want your own data. And they're just nowhere. So now we're saying, let's first work on the fundamentals and get the right governance, and then we can have AI that really works. So we try to nudge countries into this direction. And then I just copy what you said. So you also said, you know, we try to facilitate cooperation, and we do that on the EU level. So we had now, for the first time as a policy statement, we have a Commission communication that is called Enhancing the European Administrative Space. As I speak, we have a conference on that. We call it the Compact. And this is about exactly that, saying, you know, administrations share similar problems. Citizens and businesses are totally frustrated with public administration, administrative burden, and all that. And we use the Compact as a forum and a platform to exchange good practices. So all the projects we work with, you have the knowledge of one project, and we want then to share this with other projects. Also, we have a very nice instrument, it's called TAIEX, that is about peer-to-peer support. And in most requests that we get, we see that a country says, oh, we want to solve this problem, but we want to learn from other countries. And then we send them on mission, on study tour, on peer exchanges. And now we have another instrument. If you are familiar with the Erasmus program, we have just started the Erasmus for civil service. So you have a problem, even as an individual, we can send you to another country. We call it the PACE or PACE program. So we want to facilitate much more sharing and mutual learning and sharing of knowledge through our instruments and through this Compact platform. And then we want to offer certain products where we see countries have similar problems. For example, digital skills competence frameworks. Yeah, because so if you are tech-minded, you are high-end, but a lot of people, they're very low-tech, and we need to upscale the digital skills to use the technology better. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what we do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Florian. Indeed, the Compact focusing on digitalization, moving on green, and enhancing the digital skills of citizens. It is one of the communications, or I would say mechanism to help towards digital transformation also of people in a way. And thanks also for the information on the TSIs. And I found very interesting actually the platform with 193 members of UN. It's these initiatives that bring together people to emerge and to have collaborative discussions to move forward, actually, for the innovation in public administrations, at least. Actually, now we will just move to the next set of 2 questions. It's exactly a set of questions. And with these diagrams that they will fuel, actually, the discussion, you can see that we have in our observatory AI, of course, and blockchain cases, and the majority of the AI cases, 56%, and blockchain cases, 80%, are currently in pilot. At the stage of piloting, experimentation, so they need this boost to go up, to scale up. So exactly this is my question now to Jet from DG Campus. Thank you, Jet, for being here, and we would like your opinion on how we can scale up from the status of experimentation to full implementation, development, and full implementation of solution, innovation solution in the public administration.
Thank you, Stefanos, for inviting me here. I don't have the answer to that as a total, because if I would have the answer, I don't think I would be sitting here. But the thing that we see at DG Campus is a multiple helix innovation organization. So we have different levels of academia, public servants, and private companies in one organization. And the thing that we see is, what we see the most is that a lot of pilots are specifically designed for one organization. So then you have a problem, you have a startup, and then you have an organization, startup makes the solution, and then it's just for that organization. So the one thing that we advise is to have at least 2 customers, 2 or 3 customers, so that you already have a solution that works for more people, and that you have a business case, and not just a solution for one problem within one organization. So I would say that's one of the first things that we advise startups. And secondly, also for the public sector, what is the end goal? Do you just want to have a pilot for perhaps an interesting project that your director thinks is really interesting? Let's say, let's do something with AI because it's cool. Or do you want to have it implemented? And who's going to implement it? Who's going to maintain it? How are you going to do this? Are you going to scale it up? Or is it just this really small part that you want to do or improve? And I think having the people that will maintain it at the end, already at the beginning at your table, I think that will really help further the scalability of your project. But maybe the things that you want to do are not really scalable within this framework that we have in the organization or the framework that we have in the country. So I think having the whole package, so the multiple helix, but the end users, also the people who are going to maintain it, already at the beginning at your table when you're writing up your ideas and providing the solutions, would really work. And another thing is, if you have the solution that is perhaps scalable, know where to do this. We have the GovTech for All consortium, and we are really looking at ideas that are in country 1 and that are really good and working there. How can we do that in country 2, in country 3? How can we do that at European level? And I think knowing that these kind of things exist, making use of it, is also one thing that will help scalability. And lastly, I think the building blocks that André talked about are really, really important. Have those building blocks, share them. Perhaps have a place where we can use and share those building blocks. And lastly, and I think that's a really, I think it's more of a difficult thing, like the pet projects. I just already touched upon it a little bit, but pet projects for a director that wants to see something. He's coming here today, he thinks or she thinks, this is really our idea, we want to have this in the company. And then all of a sudden, there's a team working on that specific idea. And they go for it and they work on it really hard. And we have a lot of good ideas, really motivated people. But then their director is gone. And so the budget is gone. There's a team who's really motivated, is now going to be very demotivated because they're going to continue with the project. So why do we start these projects? Do we start them because there's a need for citizens? Is there a need for companies? Is there a need within the organization to do something? Or is it just a cool technology that we want to experiment with? And I think with keeping these in mind, so the more customers, just not one, the real problem, the implementation and maintaining, if you have that from the start, I think you have more success of scaling up. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yet. Indeed. Yeah, we have to, everyone, I mean, it's not only the European Commission, but public administrations that they have a plan, they have to have a long-term plan to see, to know what and if they need some solution like this. I mean, it's implementation like at the pilot phase, maybe it's driven by policy, but of course it's not that we do something just to do it. There is the need to have the bigger picture to continue the full implementation to help citizens. And of course the point of bringing together more than one actors, it's very important, and I hope that we do it well, or we try at least at the GovTech for All incubator. It's by experience talking. It's a very difficult exercise actually, because first of all, bringing together different stakeholders working on innovation for the first time maybe in their lives, being in the public administration, having this in mind, it is already challenging. But already implementing, piloting, and then implementing a solution, it can be a tough challenge.
Yes.
Yes. So now. Actually, I want also to thank André, because I think his presentation was also involved, let's say, related to the piloting, and from piloting to scale up to full implementation. And I would like now to address a question to Ivy. Regarding interoperability of innovative services, what are the key aspects that public administrations should consider when implementing such innovative solutions, taking into consideration also the European public service landscape? And it's a two-scale question. So the second scale is, in the scale-up of specifically AI-based innovative solutions, what are the key aspects regarding accountability and transparency? I hope it's not so long, but you can take your time.
I got it, yeah. Thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much for having me. I feel like in order to address this question, or these two questions, I think a very crucial first step is to take a step back to actually processing and actually reflecting on the multifaceted nature of the concept of interoperability and transparency. And especially at the interoperability front, the recent Interoperable Europe Act identified 4 categories: legal, technical, thematic, and operational. So when we're talking about implementing these aspects, and there's more layers goes into it, and various aspects that we should consider to be able to address these different categories. And the similarly that with regard to transparency in the context of advanced technologies, I mean, there's also so many different layers. Are we talking about transparency for whom? Transparency for what? Transparency of what? And how transparent does it need to be? And when we try to combine these two concepts together, interoperability and transparency, the dynamic is getting even more complicated. Are we talking about how we can make transparency of AI more interoperable? Or are we talking about the interoperable tools needs to be more transparent? Or are we talking about something completely different? So at OASC, which stands for Open and Agile Smart Cities and Community, and as a note, for those who are not familiar with our work yet, in a short version, we are a global network of cities and communities, and the core goal is to support their journey of digitalization. So in this kind of overlap between interoperability and transparency, we're primarily working from 2 fronts. On the one hand, that through different, especially EU-funded projects, and we're working directly with cities, and on several of the topics we just mentioned, like AI, local digital twins, and Cityverse. So there that they present to us some great opportunities to be able to observe and learn about the lessons learned by the cities and communities. On the other hand, that we have working groups for what we call as MIMs. So it is minimal interoperability mechanisms. In the short version, the idea behind it is we're trying to identify sets of minimal yet sufficient interoperability mechanisms to make the digital solution for the cities and communities more interoperable. And I'm the facilitator for the MIMS working group on transparency and fairness of AI, so where I also observed like a lot of this kind of conversation touching upon this 2 topics. But myself, I'm not a technical background expert. My background is in policy, but I do find a lot of similarities on this topic between non-technical discussions and technical discussion. So if I have to highlight one key observation that based on my experience, I think it has to be the shared confusion by the public sectors on what to do about this. So you see that at the macro level that we have this kind of comprehensive visions about interoperability, AI Act, how to be human-centric, trustworthy, and you also have the local level, you have the willingness. But what is missing is how we can turn this grand vision into implementable action plans. And in many cases, that boils down into the problem of being able to identify a proper starting point, the challenge of being able to identify such starting points. And just offer some quick thinking about what would be potentially a solution to address this problem. So in order to be able to identify such starting point, personally, I think that it consists of 3 major steps. Step 1 is clarity. And a lot of times when we're having this kind of stakeholder engagement, it seems like we're using the same terminologies. We talk about AI, we talk about interoperability, we talk about trustworthiness, and etc. But if you take a step further to actually ask about what is actually being discussed, you will often find the discrepancy across these different narratives. Just to offer an example, a couple weeks ago, I was in a different panel in Berlin addressing this point on transparency of AI. So at the very surface level, a lot of narrative is being shared as, I don't trust it. And when you ask the question, take a step further to say, okay, what do you not trust? And some people say, oh, I don't trust the people who are making it. And some people say, I don't trust the people who are using it. And some people say, well, I don't trust the government is behind it. So when you ask a step further of these clarification questions, you will often find there are so many different parallel narratives floating around the same idea. So as a step 1 for this step of clarification, I do urge that if you're from the cities or communities, take a step back and observing what is actually being currently discussed in your room, what are currently on the table, have a proper mapping of the scope of your discussion. And based on that, step 2 is identify priorities. That what I mean is to identify some lower hanging fruit that is feasible and realistic to be able to based on that you can create some momentum. And then based on this, I think step 3 is to be able to have a proper mapping about the resource at hand. Do you already have in-house resources and the talents, the infrastructures that needed to materialize this? Or there's also external resources available, such as MIMS, and they will be there for you to help you to materialize some of these visions, and also have a platform to help you to exchange some practices and getting some experience from other people who are sharing the same problems. So in summary, I feel like nowadays we're discussing a lot about privacy by design, interoperability by design, but maybe we should also take a step further to think about implementability by design. I'm not talking about implementation of the product per se yet. I'm talking about implementation, the creation of a strategy. And I think in order to make that implementable of all this grand vision, a crucial first step is to be able to properly identify such starting point. I'll leave it here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Very interesting. I mean, the implementability. I think it's a new norm outside of this session that we take it out actually. So we focus on clarity, prioritization, and resource planning. That the resource planning includes internal and also funding from external stakeholders. It's very interesting discussion on this point, but I would like, first of all, to thank all of you for this first set of questions, and I would like to address a question to all of you. Okay, so let's keep it like this. To all of you, so I would like to invite you to share one key learning that you can highlight as important from your experience working with emerging technologies. In just a few words, we have some time actually, so I would say 2 minutes per speaker. What are your recommendations or learnings, and what this can offer to policymakers, practitioners, stakeholders, public administrations in order to innovate and advance the digital transformation of public administrations? I would like to start maybe by the last one, so Ivy, if no, okay, you're not ready? By surprise, no, okay.
No, I think that earlier what I just said, that is also already touched upon this point you just made. And I think that if I have to boil it down to one key point that I think it is crucial, is search for clarity. Like even what is AI, we're talking about data models, we're talking about the management of data, we talked about usage of data, we talked about the future of AI and technologies, Cityverse. I mean, what exactly are the problems at hand? So finding that, I think it is a crucial starting point to be able to develop something that is feasible and workable. That's my part.
Thanks a lot, but you don't have any specific learning, for example, or out of a practical example that you have for providing this clarity? Okay, yes, I totally agree, but I don't know if you have a specific, like, special case.
Yeah, for example, that in the working groups that I just mentioned, the MIM5 working group, on this kind of note of transparency and fairness of AI, I mean, it has been a quite challenging task to do, to be able to identify what exactly the angle that MIMS, within the scope of MIMS, that is contributing to this very chaotic dynamic. And some of the, so we, in this kind of working groups, we usually have OASC members and Living EU members at our, communities who are representing different local level management, and then to reflect on what are the challenges and what are the problems needed. So one of the key aspects I do notice that you have, I think that is a little mini set of what is happening in the real life. You have some people very tech savvy, and a very tech-heavy background. Some people focusing on the policy side, and some maybe like private sectors, and then the representatives, the solution providers. And when you have them all in the same room, that's what I meant when in my part talking about this kind of clarity, this kind of parallel existence of different narratives while people think that we're talking about the same things. The issue here is, a lot of these parallel narratives, they are not mutually exclusive. So you can't just say that you're wrong or he's wrong. You don't make any sense. So what end up to be that we have a pile of ideas from different angles, stakeholder experience, and which we think, oh, that actually makes sense. That's good to know. But then it ends up to be a compilation of ideas. And then it is making it difficult to figure out, okay, what's the clarity? What is the road? What is the roadmap we're going to do about this? So I think that based on this observation, I do feel like in order to make something workable, you need clarity. And you also acknowledge that there's different people have different priorities in their mind. And when we're talking about a city as a group, or even company, or any kind of unit as a collective decision-making process, you need such clarity and to be able to figure out a roadmap. It's not to excluding the ones that are not yet included at the beginning. It's to be able to have a strategy to address it. That's the starting point of a sustainable approach when we're thinking about the longevity of the decisions that we identify.
Okay, thanks a lot. The floor is yours. We can take it like in order.
Yes. So. Well, thank you. Maybe to add what Ivy is saying, when you have so many different stakeholders, what we at DG Campus have, because our organization is a combination of different stakeholders already, we have different methodologies to do this. For instance, a multi-stakeholder design sprint, where we have all the stakeholders working on the same solutions from different organizations, where you can find this clarity as you are working together in a week or 2 weeks perhaps on the same project, which really helps if you have policymakers there and you have people who are implementing it, and you put them all together from all the different organizations to work on live events or other parts that are cross-organizational problems, and also provide cross-organizational solutions, bringing them together, putting them together with different methodologies such as a design sprint. It really works for us to bring it a step further and not to have a lot of talking, but really working on something and making something. So that would be my biggest takeaway on working together and implementing new stuff.
Okay, makes sense. Sounds good to me, actually, this taking action and not only keep staying in the theory. So it's Ibon, it's your turn.
Yes. Well, first of all, I will take the sentence of IB, the implementability by design. I think that is very close also to the claim of this Congress, that if I'm not wrong, is vision to reality. And I say that it's quite close because the vision should include all the things that are necessary to comply with this vision. Sometimes we think that the vision is only when a politician says, we have to do that, and that's the vision. No, the vision should comply how do we do, or for whom we'll do, and these kind of things. No? And I think that this is a problem nowadays in our public administrations, because sometimes somebody says something, a sentence that seems to be a vision, but it is not. Then we have to go to the reality, but in the middle we have a path that is very long, because you have to create a lot of steps to reach this reality, and sometimes the reality is very far from the initial vision. I will put only an example, as you have as for examples, Stefanos. I will put an example that probably is not very close to the to this Congress terms, but I think that this is easy to understand. When we started in 2018 to develop our computer vision models, we had several conversations with universities and technological centers to learn how to do. No? And in the computer vision models, it's very important to annotate the images, the pictures to train then the models. And in the conversations with one of these entities, they suggested us to subcontract all the annotations in Indian companies and companies in Nigeria, like other companies were doing, with the example of Tesla, example of Facebook, and others. In that moment, my partner Esti, she was the general director of the company, she decided to explore other options. And one of the options that she was exploring was how to work with associations of people with problems of autism in our region, in close to Bilbao in Spain. And well, we started a relationship with this association, and during the last 4 years, all the works that we have needed for annotation have been applied by this association, by the people that is working in this association, and that previously only were doing some manual works. And even some of the people that we have included in our team to supervise the things that this association is doing is people also from the association. What I mean is that when you have a vision that is compiling all the things, all the aspects related to the providers, related to the business that you have, related to the final user, related to all these things, probably you can generate projects that will be close to the reality in less time. No? And well, this is the example that I wanted to put.
Thank you, Bon. Indeed, proper project planning, identifying all stakeholders, and getting funding from the proper sources. It's very important. Florian.
Lots of lessons learned. I want to build on what Jet said before. She focused a bit on this ownership and said, "Oh, the boss likes the technology." And I think quite often, let's say we look at a civil service, and they are digitalizing something. They should ask, well, what is the problem we want to solve, and what is the root problem? And what they often do is they look, oh, I like a fancy tool. By the way, I know a guy from a company. This is the uncle of my brother-in-law, and he's selling me a package, and that's the solution. And I think that is the problem. So, what is, I think, a really nice example is, the difference between digitalization and digital transformation, and you should use the opportunity of the technology to change the way we think and work, and starting with people and with processes and with data. And this needs a vision, and it needs the right attitudes. To give you an example, talking about social services in the country where I come from, we have a word that is called Bittsteller, if somebody understands this. It's like you're a requester. You have to fill in a form, give your name, and again, and again, and every year again. By the way, I have a friend. She has a severely disabled child. The daughter will never change. To request for her support, she has to fill in the same form every year. The child will never change. If she doesn't need the money anymore, that means she's dead. She would also know, because they have the data. Yeah. So, and this is how do you see the citizen? Now, what we are interested in is, for example, these proactive services. Let's say you give birth to a child. The data from the hospital goes to the registry, goes to the social services, and they immediately put the money for the child on your account. You don't have to do anything. Yeah? I think that is progress. So we have to think about what is the problem we want to solve and what is real progress, and you have to start rethinking your processes, but also your attitudes and your values. And talking about values, I want to say, this is a problem we have, because we have this technical support instruments. We give you technical support to do a nice reform. There's always a political component. Otherwise, your 100,000 public authorities, there's so much fragmentation. and say, well, you just need to work together, and one guy decides, yeah, but that's also a power shift. So, for example, if you look at public procurement, you know, the states in the EU spend 660 billion euros on public procurement. That's a lot of spending power, and to use this money wisely, you know, that would be good maybe. And but in reality, is public procurement is not professional; it's totally fragmented, and it could benefit hugely by more maybe centralization. But that's also a power shift. Yeah. You mentioned before, Stefanos, the question on national, local, multi-level governance. Now, digitalization, to make it more effective, there's probably some element of you know, good coordination at the top and reduce fragmentation, but that's also taking maybe power away or ownership away from smaller entities. That's political, and I think we're not very good at managing that. So what we always say in our projects, you know, have this, and colleagues said it the same, I think Jet said the same, and Ivy, you need this stakeholder approach. You have to get everybody on board and work together and agree on the common good, and that's basically the fundamental problem of the EU as well. So there you have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Florian. What I listen is we need transparency, and I hope through mechanisms like the TSI we can assure this. And yeah, what we also need is collaboration and coordination. And as it was mentioned in the morning, maybe invisibility of public services, just to not have to do anything. So everything is proactive and automated. Of course, keeping in mind that they respect the human rights and digital values. And yeah, we don't have to do anything when we interact, let's say, with public administrations. This is the ideal picture. Lucia.
Yeah, it's difficult to add after this very thoughtful insight. I would say perhaps three things. The first would be think twice. Think twice. Why? Because there's now a hype and everyone wants to, you know, provide some examples and case studies of what they're doing with AI. But think twice, why are you deploying AI? Who benefits from this implementation? I think sometimes technology is not the answer, on the opposite. And I was reading the other day a very interesting bill, or at least it's a proposal in California, and they are going to ban by law the automation of the call centers that assist citizens under public benefits programs. Because when you are in this situation, extremely vulnerable, you don't want to be, you don't want to speak to a machine, and you can't. And the public sector shouldn't enforce automation and AI there. They should put more people to help other people, because this is our society. Help people helping other people. That's the idea behind it. And the second thing would be streamline. Don't go through it alone. Join a coalition, join an alliance, a group, a support group, but learn from mistakes and learn from others. And here the Netherlands really has a very interesting case, and to me it's a success story. How from a failure they've taken all the measures and they're putting everything in place to make sure it never happens again, and that is a very powerful learning. And I think that from, although this sounds a bit, you know, like the startup thing, but from those failures, there's also relevant lessons. And the third one would be automate procurement. I am completely in agreement with you, and I think that to avoid, you know, corruption or favoritism or even capture, because some companies are better prepared to just go through the procurement process. Automate as much as you can, also to promote competition and to combat these oligopolies that are around the public procurement processes, and attract talent. I think that there are very good examples with the UK and the US in attracting, in opening and really flexible, making more flexible. And now with the AI office, EU AI office, almost, how to flexibilize and how to open the doors to new talent and make it easier and more attractive for people to work and to serve in the public administration.
Thank you, Lucia. Indeed, think twice. It's very important to take action after collaboration and engagement with stakeholders and related parties. What interested me actually from what you said, it's the streamline and work together, and the procurement. The procurement, okay, it's not also, as you mentioned, it's not only about corruption, but it's also about inclusivity, I would say. Just to bring in, as you also mentioned, new talent, meaning from my part, startups and SMEs, to make it possible not only through procurement to have big companies, but also to support the small companies that they can bring innovation. Thanks, Lucia. And Andre, last but not least.
Thank you. So building on everything that has been said, I will also stress something that Jet and Florian said about empowering teams and public servants also to solve problems or challenges. I think that's a very interesting and important point. We have had, and this is something that it's a cultural shift, and it takes more time perhaps in some entities than others, but it's very, very important. We have had some amazing experiences in our reality in Portugal. For example, we were talking about those magical services or behind-the-scenes services, right, where the citizen goes to a public desk or to a digital service, and then 2 different entities or 4 or 3 exchange information behind the scenes, and all he has to do is authorize. So we have that in Portugal for some services, not all, of course, yet. But and some of those ideas or services came from public servants, and so we have this annual simplification program where everybody can pitch in ideas, public services, people from civil society, company people, business people, etc. And there are a lot of ideas that have been implemented and innovations have been made by suggestions of public servants, people who know the systems, who know what connections are already existing on our interoperability platform. So that's the reason why we have services like, for example, if you want to access some kind of special tariff in a utility provider, it can access if you have right to it or not with just a simple click. So that's also a very important point, and I think in some organizations that are transitioning to an agile mindset, it's something that we are very focused on. The other one, and just to finish, it's kind of it's not a new thing. I mean, there's been user research for decades, but I think it's something that sometimes we lose sight of. User research, involving the user in the research process, not just, it's also good, but not just making some sort of workshop, design thinking for 2 hours, and then, okay, we did it, we did co-creation, everything's fine. No, involving the user continuously along the product. For example, when we deployed our pilot, we did not have the time to do research before going to production, and our user researcher almost tore his hair off. But we did it 2 weeks when it was already in production, okay? So we went to the field, we did interviews, we did tests, we found out very interesting things, like, for example, the answer should be shorter, people don't like to interact with the avatar in a public space, and things like that, and we are continuously trying to do that. I know that sometimes we don't have the resources, but this is something that also, and I think it also has to do with the first point, right? So if you empower product teams and product leaders and product and UX experts, research becomes a very important part of the life cycle of a product, and also a catalyst for innovation, for finding out problems and solutions to those problems. So that would be my final note. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andre. Agile mindset for me, this is what I keep, user engagement and proactiveness to go out and ask for feedback from users, so they are engaged, and not only at the beginning, but also throughout the whole life cycle of a solution until its implementation. At this point, I would like to thank you, but we are not done yet. We have a couple of questions, because we can take actually only 2 or 3 questions, but we have a lot from on Slido.
Yeah.
Paula.
Sure, thank you. I don't know if you can hear me there. Hope you do. So as you can see there, here as well, you on the screen. So we are going to maybe take the first 2. So the first one goes to Florian about the TSI support on AI projects. if, like, will the DI support AI projects in member states? And if yes, are you planning on funding AI projects in specific fields or in specific topics?
It's quite easy. So we are really demand-driven. So the answer is yes. But we have to be a bit careful because for some legal reasons we cannot do the implementation. We don't do programming. Yeah. So what we do is the whole sort of scoping, design, needs assessment, and getting everything ready. But then you will have to take the, I don't know who asked the question, but you have to take the ownership at the end. And that's why we don't engage on that level. But yes, and whatever you need. So it's demand, it's literally demand driven, whatever you need. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Hope the question was answered. And maybe we go to Andre now with the second question. So from a central government perspective, how do these AI pilots and projects relate or integrate with a broader digital government strategy?
That's a good question and an important one. And to be honest, we are not entirely sure right now. So we are exploring. So just to in regards to the public service delivery, which is my main area of work, what we are trying to figure out now is we are working on the AI avatar chatbot for the central service portal. And of course, in that sense, every entity that has services or information in the portal obviously will benefit from the avatar being able to give out information about their services also. And we are also exploring those organizations that want or already have some sort of AI on their own portal or website. We are now trying to figure out, and we are also participating in some European projects with regards to interoperability with chatbots. One of them is being led by the Publications Office, I think. In how we could, in some way, have some sort of network or some sort of shared knowledge between these AI chatbots in which they can share some sort, if it makes sense, some sort of knowledge base, or even going a step further and making available a framework so that if a specific entity wants to deploy a thematically focused chatbot on their own portal or services, they can do it using a broader framework that we would be also using and everybody else could also use. So we are exploring and see if that makes sense. So it's still a new area. But yes, it's something we are investigating. If some of you have information that is also useful in that sense, I'm very curious about it.
Given that we have only 10 minutes and I have also 5 last minutes to bombardize you with some promotional material, I would like to ask from the speakers if someone wants to take the first question here. All right.
Is it okay? I mean, I would say from my perspective, but
to the rest,
I
but
say just fine. Yes.
All right.
No, but you know, this is super important. You can also, you get your projects, you can do multi-country projects. So we have many reform projects where the countries just say, we want to just work with others straight together from the start. So this is really cool. And that doesn't mean you have to do everything the same. Everybody has different needs. You can have your country component and then you learn. But we also send you through our TAIEX instruments to other countries to learn. And then what we do now increasingly, so for example, we work with Romania on a digital skills competence framework, very interesting for other countries. And then the results, we bring that into our platform and share it with others. And also online from October, it's like a movie now, you know, coming up is the new version of our Quality Public Administration Toolbox. It will be the first time we have this online. And there you have lots of case studies and everything, and then you can start interacting. But so we really want to, 1,200 projects we have, we really want to facilitate sharing and learning. And we're building also on our website where you see lots of projects, and it's super, super important. We also do a network of national institutes of public administration, and we help them develop their curricula for civil servants, and we work on that as well as a facilitator. So yes.
Thank you very much, Florian. If I can we go back to the slides, please? Voila, good. Yes, now actually, this is also a pass to me for how public administration, how we can help, let's say, bring together the actors and to innovate. So I come back to our initiative, the Public Sector Tech Watch, because as mentioned at the beginning, I just want to explain more and provide more information on the Best Cases Award that we run. It's ongoing. Public administrations, they are invited to share their solutions. I think in the next slide we have a QR code so you can have access directly to the website, but the project is called Public Sector Tech Watch. What we will do there, we will evaluate the cases that they will be submitted by mid-July. And after the evaluation, the assessment, we will have a ceremony that will take place in Budapest and under the Hungarian presidency. So winners, one of the privileges, apart from being recognized on our website, they will be invited to present their solution there. These are the criteria for the solutions. The solution has to be implemented in a European country. The solution is implemented by public administration of different level. These solutions may be developed in-house or provided by external vendors. The solution is at least in the development pilot or a pilot stage. The applicant organization registered on Joiner platform, so it is one extra step that we ask from you, just to become members of the Joiner platform. It takes 2 minutes, and then you can also submit your case. And the case submitted, as mentioned through the Public Sector Tech Watch Observatory, with the reporting form. I guess there is a link there, but you cannot access it from here, but you can do it here. And as mentioned, submission is started in February, and it's until mid of July. August, September, we will have the evaluation of the cases, and in October, as mentioned, the winner will be announced and present the solution, because it's two prizes for government to government, government to businesses, citizens, sorry. They will present the solutions in Hungary. So I give you some time to scan the code, but I want to thank all the panelists for the very interesting discussion. I hope that all of you had some interest also following us. And thanks also to Paula for presenting the coming report that we have. Once again, thanks a lot for your participation, and see you soon, or please keep in contact with us by sharing an email or your initiative through the platform.